There is a version of you that has never fully existed yet, not the version you show at work, not the version you became for your family, not the version that learned to shrink in certain rooms and perform in others, not the version that survived by adapting, by editing, by making yourself acceptable to spaces that were never quite big enough for everything you actually are. A different version, one that has been waiting, quietly, patiently, with a persistence that has never once given up on you even when you gave up on yourself. And the reason you feel, sometimes in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday, sometimes at 3 in the morning, sometimes in the middle of a life that looks completely fine from the outside, the reason you feel like something is still missing is not because something is wrong with you. It is because that version of you is still waiting to be lived. Carl Jung called this individuation, and he believed it was the single most important journey a human being could ever take. Not the most comfortable, not the most socially acceptable, not the easiest to explain to the people around you who are perfectly content with the life they were handed. The most important. Most people never take it. Not because they are lazy, not because they do not care about growing, but because individuation does not begin with inspiration. It begins with disruption. It begins with the quiet but unmistakable feeling that the life you are living, however objectively successful, however full of the right things, is somehow not entirely yours. You have felt this. Maybe you have felt it for years. That specific discomfort that sits just beneath the surface of your daily routine. That sense that you are performing a version of yourself rather than actually being one. That hunger for something you cannot name. That voice, not loud, never loud, but absolutely persistent, that keeps saying this is not everything you are. Jung said that voice is not a symptom. It is a summons. Here is what individuation actually is. Not self-improvement, not optimization, not becoming a better version of the self you already are. Something far more radical than that. Jung discovered that every human being is born with what he called the self with a capital S. Not the ego, not the personality you built to navigate the world, but something deeper, something that existed before the world started shaping you, something that carries within it the full blueprint of who you were actually meant to become. And then life happens. Your parents needed you to be a certain way. Your school rewarded certain qualities and punished others. Your relationships asked you to show up in specific configurations. Your culture handed you a template and called it identity. And you did what every human being does. You adapted. You took the blueprint you were born with and you folded it, tucked certain parts away, let other parts atrophy from disuse, built your life around what was wanted rather than what was true. Jung called the result the persona, the mask, the carefully constructed social self that functions perfectly in the world and feels faintly hollow in private. Individuation is the process of unfolding the blueprint again, not all at once, not without cost, not without the discomfort of meeting parts of yourself that have been waiting in the dark for a very long time, but piece by piece, layer by layer, returning to yourself the way a person returns to their native language after years of speaking only in translation. Think about the moment you first felt it, not a thought, a feeling, that specific quality of wrongness that has nothing to do with anything being objectively bad. Your life was fine, maybe even good. But something inside you kept quietly insisting that fine was not the same as true. That was not ingratitude. That was not depression. That was not you being difficult or ungrateful or impossible to satisfy. That was the self beginning to make itself known. Jung said the self communicates in feelings before it communicates in words, in restlessness before it communicates in clarity, in a persistent sense of incompleteness before it offers any indication of what completion might actually look like. And most people, when that feeling arrives, do one of two things. They numb it, or they mistake it for a problem with their circumstances. They change the job, the relationship, the city, the routine. They rearrange the furniture of their life, hoping the feeling will shift. And sometimes it does for a while, but it always comes back, because the feeling was never about the circumstances. It was about the blueprint. Jung observed something that I need you to sit with. He said that the people who avoid individuation do not escape it. They simply experience it sideways, as depression that arrives without an obvious cause, as anxiety that medication manages but never resolves, as a midlife crisis that looks like chaos from the outside but is actually the self breaking through the defenses the ego spent decades constructing, as physical illness that appears in the body when the soul has been ignored for too long, as the persistent haunting feeling of a life half-lived. The self will not be permanently silenced. It is more patient than your defenses. It has more endurance than your avoidance. And eventually, in one form or another, it will be heard. The only question is whether you meet it consciously, or whether you wait until it finds a way to make itself impossible to ignore. Here is where it gets deeply personal, because individuation is not an abstract concept. It is happening in your life right now. Every time you feel the pull towards something that does not fit neatly into the version of yourself you have presented to the world, that is, individuation calling. Every time you sense that a relationship, a career, an identity, a belief system no longer fits the person you are becoming, that is individuation working. Every time you feel the specific loneliness of being surrounded by people who know your persona, but not yourself, that is individuation reminding you of the distance still to travel. And every time you catch a glimpse, in a moment of unexpected clarity, in a dream, in a conversation that accidentally went somewhere real, of who you actually are underneath all of it, that is the self, showing you the blueprint, reminding you that it is still there, still intact, still waiting. But here is what Jung understood about individuation that nobody tells you when they talk about finding yourself. It is not comfortable. The process of becoming who you actually are requires the death of who you have been pretending to be. Not a dramatic death, not a public one, but a real one. The persona you built, the reliable one, the strong one, the one who never asks for too much, the one who keeps everyone comfortable, the one who performs wholeness while feeling fragmented, that persona has to loosen its grip. And loosening that grip feels like losing yourself, even though it is the opposite. Jung said that every genuine transformation involves a period that feels like disintegration, like the ground beneath your identity has become unstable, like the things that used to organize your sense of self no longer hold the same weight. This is not breakdown. This is the space between who you were and who you are becoming, and the ability to stay in that space, to resist the urge to immediately rebuild the old structure just because the uncertainty is uncomfortable, is the single most important skill individuation requires. Jung called the dark night of the soul the necessary threshold of individuation, the moment when the old self has dissolved enough that the new self can begin to emerge. And he said something that I want you to carry with you. He said that most people turn back at exactly this moment, not because they are weak, because they do not know that the disorientation they are experiencing is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It is a sign that something has gone right. The dissolution is not the destination. It is the doorway. And here is the twist, the one that changes how you understand every difficult season of your life. Jung discovered that individuation is not a linear journey. It does not have a beginning, a middle, and a clear ending where you arrive fully formed and finally complete, and never again uncertain about who you are. It is a spiral. You return to the same wounds from different heights. You revisit the same questions at different depths. You meet the same shadow material, the same fears, the same patterns, the same buried parts of yourself, again and again, but each time with more capacity to understand what you are seeing. This means that nothing you have been through was wasted. Not the relationships that broke you, not the seasons that felt like failure, not the years you spent being someone you were not the times you chose comfort over truth, not the grief you carried that had no name. Every single piece of it was material, raw material for the self that was always trying to emerge through the life you were actually living. Jung said that the most individuated people, the most genuinely whole, genuinely themselves, genuinely alive, are almost never the ones who had the easiest paths. They are the ones who had the courage to go into their own depths and find out what was actually there. Not what they had been told was there, not what was safe or acceptable or socially legible, what was actually truly irreducibly there. So if you are in a season right now that feels like disintegration, if your life is rearranging itself in ways you did not ask for and cannot fully control, if the identity you have been wearing no longer fits the person you are becoming, If the voice that says this is not everything you are has gotten too loud to ignore, I want you to hear this. You are not falling apart. You are falling into place. The discomfort you are feeling is not evidence that you chose wrong, or that you are failing, or that something is irreparably broken. It is the blueprint asserting itself. It is the self, patient, persistent, absolutely committed to your wholeness, breaking through the surface of everything you were told to be. And that breakthrough, as disorienting as it feels in the middle of it, is the most important thing that has ever happened to you. Jung spent his entire life studying this process, watching people move through it, guiding people into their own depths and back out again, documenting what he found in the territory that most people never had the courage to enter. And his conclusion, after decades of this work, after everything he witnessed in himself and in the thousands of people who came to him, was not complicated. He said that becoming who you truly are is the only journey that matters. Not the most successful version of who the world decided you should be. Not the most acceptable version of who your family needed you to be. Not the most functional version of who your circumstances required you to become. Who you actually are, underneath all of it. In the place where the blueprint still exists, where the self has been waiting with more patience than you have ever given yourself. That version of you is not lost. It was never lost. It has simply been waiting for you to stop performing the life you were given long enough to start living the one you were made for. And the fact that you are here, reading this, feeling this, recognizing something in this that you have been quietly carrying for longer than you can remember, means the waiting is almost over. The blueprint is still intact, the self is still there, and it has never once stopped believing that you would find your way back. Everything that did not fit was not a mistake. It was the blueprint refusing to be folded into a shape that was never yours. And every time you felt like you did not belong, that was not rejection. That was the self protecting you from settling for a life too small to hold everything you actually are.